Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Makeup by Dedra here, and I have another client tutorial for you guys today. The lovely Susan stepped into my studio to get her birthday glam on, and I just could not resist videotaping that and giving you all a mini tutorial. So if you guys want to see how I created Susan's look for her birthday and her mini shoot at home, stay tuned and keep on watching. Don't forget to like the video, leave me a comment, and if you haven't already, please remember to subscribe. As always, I'm starting off with the brows, and I'm using my Maybelline Ultra Slim Brow Pencil to fill in Susan's brows, extend the tail just a bit, and fill in all those sparse areas. I'm not going to change the shape of Susan's natural brow too much, as it quite suits the shape of her face as it is already. I typically go back and forth from each brow, and then I would use the spoolie at the end just to fade the front or the head of the brow slightly before it's time for me to start cleaning up the base of the brow with an angled brush and a concealer that's just a couple shades lighter than Susan's natural complexion. You'll see me bring this concealer down to the lid once I've finished outlining both brows or cleaning up the bottom of both brows. And that's because this concealer is going to double as a base for the eyeshadow look that I'm going to do on her. I use a brush that's just a little bit fluffy on the end, something like a blending brush, and I just diffuse that concealer onto the lids. I also have to clean up the top of the brows. You all will see me do that just in a bit. And again, I used the remainder of the concealer that was on the stainless steel palette that I used to dispense my products on. If you don't know how to blend that out properly, I would suggest you use your foundation, because if you're not experienced, you can leave a bit of a halo around the brow. Typically, I use the foundation that's the same shade as the person's complexion, but in this case, I had excess product on the palette and I decided to use that. For Susan's look, I'm going in with one of my favorite palettes from the ABH brand, and that is the Soft Glam palette, because we're creating a bit of a soft glam look for Susan today. So I'm taking that first shade into the crease and I'm going to apply with a blending brush. I think this is my Zoeva brush I'm using here. But I'm applying with a blending brush and I'm just softening that shade in the crease before I go in with something a little deeper on the outer crease. Once I've diffused that shade, I'm going to go into the outer crease with a smaller blending brush and a deeper shade to just define that area a little bit more. These two shades will blend seamlessly into each other. This is where you have to take your time blending. Once you're adding more than one color to the lid, especially in that crease area, you want to take your time and seamlessly blend these shades into each other. Don't rush the process. Here I'm using an even smaller, more detailed blending brush, and I'm adding yet a deeper shade. I think it was the black from that palette into this very outer V of the eye. That is going to create even more depth in this eye look. Now this could have also been done in the reverse. Some people start with the deepest shade and then they go outer. So they would have started with the deepest shade, which is that little bit of black, then gone into the second brown, and then that last crease shade. I don't get too hung up on these details. Everyone will use the method or the technique that's best for them. Depending on what I'm doing, this is the technique that I prefer, where I start in the crease and go deeper with a smaller brush as we get to the end of the eye look. Well, not the end of the eye look per se, but in terms of getting to the end of that last crease color that you want to apply. You know what I mean? Here I've applied a little bit more primer or base to the lid. I believe it was my P. Louise base, and that is to give a sharper, more intense look at the inner part of the eye. It's not a cut crease per se, but more of a semi-cut crease where I'm just doing that inner part of the eye. I want the outer corners to come together in a blended look. So I'm taking my time and pat in those lid shades with a flat brush onto the lid, going back and forth between the two golds that I'm using on her lid. That is what is going to give, again, a nice seamless look from that inner corner to the outer part of the eye. Here I'm actually using a gold pigment from my favorite pigment stash, and that's my Inglot pigments. These add a really nice pop to the lid. That Inglot stash is one that I tend to reach for a lot when I just want a little extra glam on the eyes for my clients. Once I'm finished with applying the lid shades, I tend to go back in with my outer colors and blend those out just a little. Now I'm going to go in with my Inglot number 77 gel liner and a small detail brush and smudge out the liner on her lash line. I don't want a very sharp liner look. These days I tend to like the really more blended looks. Now it's time to just add some lashes and take that eye look to another level. Lashes make everything better. Learning to apply lashes have become easier over time. I see brands locally here in Trinidad like Kenzie Beauty using a liner glue that allows you to line the eye and at the same time apply the glue so that your lashes fit on so easily. Once my false lashes are on, I like to go in with a little mascara and would you believe a lash curler. That lash curler can just change the look of that lash that you would have applied ever so slightly. You can also curl the lashes before you apply them. That is actually a really neat trick to use for persons who have naturally curly lashes that tend to fight against the lash that you're using. Here I'm priming the face, and then I'm going to go in with a little bit of an illuminator from the Merix to give that skin the natural glow before you put the foundation on it. So now I'm adding the foundation to the center of her face, and I'm using a flat traditional foundation brush. It's not the brush I'm going to use to blend, however. And then I'm going to go in with a second shade and add that darker shade along the perimeter of her face. That is going to work almost as a contour, but really more to bring those two shades together and give you more of a natural complexion shade. I didn't want to mix it on the palette, but I wanted to show that you can actually mix it on the face itself, and they will all mesh together and match in perfectly with her complexion. To blend or stipple on, I'm actually using my Real Techniques Instapop brush. The shape of this brush is excellent for blending foundation out. It gets into all those little nooks and those little areas of the face that a traditional flat top kabuki brush may not be able to get to. And in case I haven't mentioned it before, the foundations I'm using for this look are the Maybelline Superstay foundations. I'm actually using a lighter shade to the center of the face and a deeper shade on the perimeter. Once I've blended those two shades together, it's time to do a slight correcting of her under eyes. I'm not using an orange corrector, but I am using a L'Oreal corrector that has a peach tint to it. That is going to help to neutralize that slight shadow she has under her eyes before I go in with a brightening eyeshadow. And I'm using my Real Techniques setting brush to blend those out. As you can see, it immediately took away the dark circles under her eyes. Next, I'm going to go in with a lighter shade, and that is going to brighten the center of her face. I'm going to use this under her eye, just in that little sing she has there, as well as her forehead, her chin, and down the center of her nose. You have to take your time and blend this seamlessly. You don't want to see where your concealer ends and your foundation begins. Be very careful in applying your concealer down the center of the nose. Try to make that line as thin and seamless as possible, and try not to be crooked. If you make that line crooked down the center of the nose, you're more or less going to give your client a crooked nose, and they don't want that. Take your time and blend this out. Time to set the face. I'm going to use a translucent powder or a brightening powder in the areas that I highlighted, and I'm just going to go on to the rest of her face with another setting powder. Around the perimeter of her face, I'm using my Maybelline Pro Powder Foundation in the shade, I think it was 355 Coconut, and that's just to bring some depth to the outer areas of her face. I'm taking my brush and I'm going down the sides of the nose as well, just to cinch that nose a little. Once this is defined, the nose looks a little bit more snatched, as they say. Taking my powder brush, I'm going to just swipe away all of those areas that I left slightly baking, and I'm using my Mineralized Skin Finish powder to help dust that away and blend everything in seamlessly. I'm not changing the brush, but I'm using the same brush at this stage to now add some blush to the cheek. I'm going back into those brows and I'm just adding a little bit of brow product to, well, it's actually a brow powder. I'm just going to add that to the brows to deepen it and intensify it just a little. If I see areas that, you know, some powder may have fallen or my hands may have touched, I'm going to use that powder there to define that area. As well as the powder tends to help set whatever product I've used on the brow. I like to normally go in with a powder after I used a pencil or a gel. I'm going to line her waterline and then apply some eyeshadow to the lower lash line. The same shadows that I would have used on her outer corners. Here I'm just adding a little glam to the inner corners of her eye, and I did use some just a bit on the lid in that area of the cut crease, and that just gives a little extra sparkle to the eyelid. So I'm cleaning off any products from the lip before we go in and start lining her lip with a lovely red, as well as adding that red lipstick that we decided on for this look. Suzanne decided on red because we thought it would go with, you know, all the outfits that she had planned for the day, as well as, I mean, it's her birthday. Why not go with a nice bright color that probably is a little bit outside of her normal comfort zone? I used two reds for this look. On the outer part of her lip, I used Pioneer from the Maybelline Superstay line, and then to the actual center of the lip, I used Dancer. Dancer just adds that little pop with a nice orangey tone to it. When working with red, it's okay to go in afterwards with a little angled brush, a detail brush, and a powder that's the same color as your client's complexion, and just clean up any areas that may have been less than perfect. Here you see me going back in with the lip color. A red lip has to be perfect. I'm adding a little Maybelline, I think this is the Master Chrome in Molten Gold. I can't recall the name. I'll probably put it up for you guys. But I'm going in with a little bit of that on her cheek, and then to spray her face with my favorite Skindinavia setting spray. And here we have the finished look. I tend to want to pat in that setting spray to mesh it into the face. And this, folks, is how we took Suzanne from no makeup to a lovely birthday glam that she can use for her at-home shoot during quarantine. Happy birthday to you, Suzanne. I absolutely loved being able to create this look on her. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and put on that notification so that you don't miss an upload. Thanks for watching.